Hello, my friends, and welcome to Perfect Practice. Today, I am thrilled that you get to hear an awesome conversation with myself and Miranda Sommer. How do I know this conversation is going to be awesome? It's because Miranda is awesome, and she's such a great inspiration to not only our peers and people in our functional medicine community, but she's also such a great inspiration to her local community and her online communities. She's made such a huge impact in literally thousands of lives and will continue to do so. And she's got some big plans for the future as well. So without further ado, welcome, Miranda. Thanks for joining me today.
Oh my gosh, the pleasure is all mine. So much gratitude for just our relationship and the experience, and to be able to have this conversation with you today.
You know, when I think of you, in the context of this interview and this conversation, the first moment I remember is when I hugged you at our live event. So that's burned, for whatever reason, that's burned into my mind. And I still remember that. I can still like close my eyes and think back to that moment. Take us back to that moment. What was going on with you in your practice and your vision? Like, where were you compared to where you are now?
Oh my goodness. Well, I remember that moment probably the same way, the same moment for several reasons. So when I joined the mentorship, I was just graduating from FDN, so functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. And I came from the place where I used to be a teacher, newly single mom, and walking into a room of professionals that at the time I was like, oh my gosh, like what am I doing here? And we were rushing, like everything went wrong for the travel. And so it just felt like, oh my goodness, I'm getting ready to meet Sachin. I'm all scattered, like, oh my goodness. And the elevator doors opened and you were there to greet us. So, and I think that was just a moment etched in my memory. But I didn't know what I didn't know at that particular moment, that was a very life-changing moment. Just like, that was one of the best decisions I feel like I've made in my life, is to join this mentorship and have the guidance. So it was an eye-opening experience, and I didn't have any idea the way my life was going to change for the positive from that moment on. So it is definitely something I remember.
Oh, awesome. I love that. So let's go back maybe before that moment. You graduate as an FDN. What prompted you to become an FDN?
Well, the lifelong struggle with trying to lose weight. So in the beginning, like I've literally been on a weight loss journey my entire life. I've done everything. I remember counting calories from the time I was like 8 years old. So I've always been a driven person and a motivated person and it was always about weight loss until I was about in my early 30s. But I was 100 pounds heavier than I am right now. In my early 30s, and was given the diagnosis that I probably most likely would not be able to conceive children. And that was a very devastating blow, because it was no longer about, being, not feeling chubby, or, being in a smaller size of jeans, or whatever, about just looking good. It was, this is stealing my dreams, because I went to school to become an elementary teacher so that I could be a good mom. And so to have that kind of dream stolen from me, I was like, okay, I've got to figure out what's going on. I've got to figure that out. So I started to kind of even become more obsessive about trying to figure out what was going on with my health. And that's when Biggest Loser was really big, so I tried to Biggest Loser myself. I tried the, 8 hours a day workout and starving myself and counting things. And it worked a little bit. But over time, I realized that I wasn't becoming healthier. And I had a near heart attack experience. So about 5 years later, if we're going to kind of fast forward and skip over some of the parts of that, because there's a lot in that story. But long story short, as I learned that the way that I was chasing weight loss is that I was not creating health. And each one of those wake-up calls was extremely important to my journey in becoming a functional medicine practitioner, to help people create health in order to overcome this battle. And realizing that becoming a teacher, that my passion for teaching and now health, like literally combined in the most perfect way for me to be this. I know that I was created to do this. And I experienced that, through those trials and overcoming those things, and then being able to see that my struggles and being able to educate people and kind of shine the light through that, and watching them take the things that I've learned to be able to overcome their own trials. I don't think there's anything more rewarding than knowing that your pain had a purpose, so to speak. And and that just grown and grown and grown. And so through the mentorship, I was able to, take my health to the next level. So since I joined the mentorship, I've lost nearly 40 pounds even since then. And knew I was in the right place at the right time to launch my business. So, and I think we're in nearly 400 people after 3 years that have come through my program as a result of what I've learned from you and through my own trials. And wow, like that's just the beginning of the story, right? So there's so much in there, and I'm just super grateful to have experienced every single one of those obstacles. And I think that really changed my mindset around everything in my life. Like, what is this here to teach me? What can I learn? And then what can I give to others from the struggles and the obstacles that I've been able to work through with you or with anyone, or the mentorship and all of the amazing professional, beautiful, like-minded people that come through there and support what we're doing here.
Awesome. So, when you share this, it's so amazing and you're sharing a very condensed version, right? There's probably so many ups and downs along the way. I know through our conversations, there's been, peaks and valleys. And of course, without the peaks, there are no valleys, and vice versa. So this shapes us into who we are today. And it also allows us to become more empathetic to the needs and the challenges that our clients might be facing. And I think most people would agree that a practitioner is empathetic to the challenges that the client themselves is facing or will face. Makes such a huge difference in the journey and in how you coach them and how you nurture them and how you get them back on the right path. So I'm sure that your clients are so lucky to have your experiences that you can now repackage as part of their solution for their healing. And I can't remember who said this, but you've probably heard this term as well. And it's like, your mess is your message. And as we're going through these challenges, we start, if we can look forward a little bit, we might realize, wow, that at some point in my life, this is going to serve me. And it might not be right now, but at some point in the future, I will acquire a skill that will either help me or allow me to help somebody else. And that's kind of how I look at some of the trials and tribulations that I faced along the way, is because I can say something to someone knowing what it felt like being in a very similar position to they are. So with that being said, tell us a little bit more about the type of people that you help. So who comes to see you? Who comes to join your program, and what would they receive working with you?
Yes. So a lot of times the person that comes to my business is a lot like me. So everything that you just said, it's totally true. Usually overworked, overwhelmed moms who have been in this battle for weight loss. They've tried a million things, kind of like I did, and they're hitting some major walls with their health. So it's now turned into something that's more than just, I've got 30 or 40 pounds to lose. I'm overwhelmed with my family. I don't know what to do. I'm doing Dr. Google, and my doctor's giving me not a lot of advice or just a medication, and I feel like there's something I'm missing. And I like to help these people tap into that intuition that we naturally have, and to know that they're not crazy, that there is something that they can do. And so by helping them understand the way that the body works. So that's the place I love to live, is kind of teaching the basics of eating, the basics of sleeping, the basics of movement. This is the way that your body works. We work, I say all the time, we work in the message, not the macros. So all of the women are trying to find the right magic combination, the magic formula, the math equation of how many calories, carbs, and fat grams it is, and minutes on the machine. And it's more about the message that we're sending our body and the way that it naturally reacts. Like we can't, our body's going to naturally respond to the inputs that we have it. So they come to me and we're helping them a lot of times with autoimmune conditions, a lot of thyroid issues, a lot of type 2 diabetes, a lot of high blood pressure, a lot of rheumatoid arthritis. And we see across the board that by changing, aligning things in the diet and lifestyle at the same time, simple, strategic things that people can, helping them implement it. I like to say that I help people learn how to fish, not just feed them, right? So I always tell people that I'm not going to give them a meal plan. I'm going to show you how to do it for yourself, because that's how it's going to stick forever. So we help people through the 12-week reset with Miranda program, not only get the results in the first 6 weeks, but to be able to learn how to keep it off and have a plan for how to feed their bodies forever and how to, improve sleep and digestion and why we're doing the things that we're doing and why your body is saying the things to you that it is, so that they can constantly be empowered if they would have to go to the doctor. Hopefully they don't, right? And they now can ask the right questions with an educated way to do that, because they know things that they weren't able to know before.
Yeah, from my experience, people think it needs to be complicated for it to be, validated. And I'd like you to speak to that, because are there times where people think, oh my God, this is way too simple and too good to be true to create these kind of results? Do you get that response?
Yeah, it's actually my favorite compliment when people say this is so much easier than I thought. This is where I also say that being a third grade teacher for over a decade really served me well, is because that I think the more simple that we can deliver it, the better results that we get, because we tend to overcomplicate things. We tend to procrastinate things. We make things really harder in our minds than it has to be. And then when people can just do one simple step at a time and see that success, it's those little compounded successes over time that lead to, just amazing results. And so that's an interesting thing too, is after 3 years now, as I'm making the program simpler and simpler and simpler, and I think that the results are getting better as well by creating just a super streamlined way for people to implement these things and understand them to the knowing level. Not, I'm just going to give this a go, but I know that this works because I feel it in my body. I understand it and I want to do it. I'm intrinsically motivated to do these things. And you can't unlearn it once you feel it at that level. So that's my goal, is for them to not just, have a plan. It's for them to feel it from within, so that they have to get up every day and know that they know the right thing to do for themselves. And that's what's going to make those choices stick.
Yeah. What are some of the limiting beliefs that you find? Or is there a common theme that you found that prevents people from either taking action or even exploring what the possibilities are?
Oh, so many. The big one is that I've tried everything, and so I'm afraid I'm going to fail again. What if this doesn't work? Just like so many other things. And having tried so many things, that's where that experience really comes in, because you want to believe that it's going to work, but you kind of bring in this doubt, like you've kind of already failed before you've begun type of belief. And so just meeting those people and those objections and, hey, well, have you tried this? Really, have you tried this? You haven't tried everything. There's no way to try everything, right? So meeting people in that. And then another big one is that people need to spend money on creating health. A lot of times I think we're stuck in this conventional model where insurance is going to pay for my health and I'm just kind of handing over my health to the doctor. I'm just going to do what they tell me to do blindly, rather than saying, wow, my health is kind of the result of the choices that I've made over time. And now I understand the consequences of that. And I also understand what can happen if I change that and move in the positive direction. So those are two big ones that kind of come up over and over again, and educating people and kind of be willing to be bold about saying those things. Because a lot of people maybe not be saying those things, right? When it comes to helping people make big changes that stick.
Yeah, it certainly helps to have your journey, right? To have that empathy, and then to come out on the other side, having lost 100 pounds and now coaching hundreds of people through this process, it gives you that authority that you also need, and the confidence that you need to know that, hey, these strategies work. They've helped all these people, and we're not fighting your physiology. We're working in alignment with it, as you said, which I think is a great way to frame it for people. We're not changing anything. We're getting you aligned, right? This is the path that you need to be on. And you also mentioned that you're getting simpler and simpler and simpler. And that's one of the things I learned from Leonardo da Vinci, who then was echoed by Steve Jobs in saying that the greatest sign of sophistication is simplicity. So as you get simpler and simpler in the way you deliver your program and how you have people engage with it, the more sophisticated it actually becomes. And functional medicine is kind of paradoxical in that regard because it can get really complicated really fast. And I'm sure when you started implementing this program, like many others, you were kind of wondering, where does like testing and supplementation and all that kind of stuff fit in? So I'd love for you to speak to that.
Oh yeah. So I went into FDN because I am a self-proclaimed nerd. Like I love to be analytical. I love to do all the testing. Like that was part of my journey. I had to find out if I had a gluten sensitivity and I did all of the, the 23andMe, the methylation. Like I was down in the rabbit hole. But then when I started to try to teach people, I realized what the gap was. The gap was that no matter what the test tells them, what we have to do, you have to start at the beginning. You have to start with the basics. And so everybody's at a different letter of the alphabet in their journey, but you can't skip over A, B, and C and just land in Z and don't go down the rabbit hole with all these testings and supplements if the basics aren't there. And so I felt as soon as I started implementing the basics with people, I was seeing transformations that far outweighed, just drilling down into the clinical testing, area. So I was able to help more people in the results were incredible. I mean, people losing 30 pounds and coming off 2 medications in 6 weeks was phenomenal. And I wasn't necessarily able to do that quickly with maybe a stool test and, some supplements, right? Like you're trying to change all of those things at once. It's too overwhelming for people. So they have to like, what are you eating? Are you sleeping? I tell people all the time, I laugh. I say, I help people eat right, sleep right, and poop right. Because most of us aren't doing any of those things well.
Right.
And they don't think about it. They don't know to think about it that simply. Oh, they don't even know what that even looks like. What is pooping right? There's no frame because no one's talking about health creation. They're only talking about, what medication can I take to make things better.
Hello, my friend. It's Sachin here. I trust you're enjoying this content. If you haven't already, I wanted to let you know about my free book called Perfect Practice. This book is for entrepreneurial practitioners in the functional medicine space who want to help as many people as possible. I've shared some of my best tools and resources in this book, and it's absolutely free. Just click on the link below and we'll send it to you at no cost. Are you familiar with James Chestnut at all? Does that name ring a bell?
I don't think I am.
One of the things that happened for me when I left my traditional chiropractic sports medicine role many years ago is the practitioner that was replacing me said, "Hey, I hear you're into nutrition and wellness. I think you're going to enjoy this CD." And he handed me that CD from James Chestnut. And it was a presentation that he did like over a decade ago now. We're talking probably like 14 years ago now. And I still listen to that CD. In fact, I was listening to it yesterday. And it talks about all the things that we talk about. He was like light years ahead, maybe too far ahead of his time. And he's doing the exact things that we are, right? So proper spinal hygiene, right? Getting our bodies moving properly, thinking right, pooping right, right? Eating right. I mean, these things are so foundational. And what he talks about, which I loved, is a vitalistic model of health, which is health creation versus treating and trying to cure illness and disease. You mentioned all these different dysfunctions that people presented to you with. And I want to highlight for everybody that you weren't treating any of them. You weren't specifically addressing somebody's RA or their autoimmune condition or their thyroid condition. All you were doing, and not to minimize what you were doing, but what you were focused on is creating health. And it's in the presence of health that the disease vanishes, right? Disease is the absence of health, the two can't coexist, just like darkness and light, right? If I have a bright room and I open the door, darkness doesn't rush in, the light rushes out. And health is the same way. So I love this framework, and I love the simplicity. I love the sophistication. I love the way you deliver your program, the empathy that you share with people. And of course, in addition to being an inspiration to your patients, you're also an inspiration to many practitioners in our ecosystem and in our mentorship as well. So it's been wonderful to have you not only implement these things and add your own flavor to them and add your own experience to them And what I also love, however, is that you're also sharing and you're paying it forward and helping others who are probably in a similar position as you were, let's say 3 years ago when you joined the mentorship, having a big vision, not knowing perhaps where to start, not knowing if it'll work, not knowing if people will pay you. And thank you for paying it forward and mentoring others. In that vein, I would love to know, what are some of the limiting beliefs that practitioners have when it comes to their success and the value that they can bring to the world?
I don't know if these two journeys could be more parallel. That's why it is. I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for the opportunity to do that. So I've always felt that I wanted to teach teachers. And so I think being vulnerable is a really big piece of that. And so I'm happy to share that what we're doing is not easy. Being an entrepreneur in any way is not easy. Being a practitioner that is sharing information that kind of goes against the grain of the way the rest of the world is not easy. And we need support to do it, and we need to share in the struggle so that we know that we're not alone. But as far as limiting beliefs, and this was one that I came in because I was saying that I was asking this question of myself. I was ready to meet you coming off the elevator and walking into this room of, what I thought was all doctors that, we have this people on a pedestal that everybody knows everything. And I think one of the limiting beliefs is that we have to know everything in order to start. Mm. And I think the most valuable lesson that I have learned in the mentorship is just go. Like, you can only be behind if you don't start. And it's going to be a constant evolve. It's going to be a constant learning. And you can't really learn as much as you want or as fast as you want until you put yourself in the game. So like trying to become ready, I'm not sure that happens. You can become more ready and you can learn more things, but you have to put yourself out there. So I think one of the limiting beliefs is I have to have all my I's dotted and all my T's crossed, and I have to be done. I have to have this super polished thing. I have to know. I don't know enough. What if somebody asks me something that I don't know? Well, the world is not going to come crashing down. The sky is not going to become falling. You just be vulnerable. You just say, well, I'll try to find the answer to that, or I'm going to find somebody that does, and we're going to figure this out together. And that's actually more, and realizing that that's more inviting than you can tell when someone's giving you an answer that they don't know. Mm-hmm. Like your gut tells you that. So just helping practitioners come over that, because I had probably every limiting belief I could bring to the table. So, I was overweight, I was self-conscious, like I said, 40 pounds heavier when I started becoming a practitioner. Who am I? Who am I to help people? But the lesson that I have learned and am learning every day is that the more vulnerable I become, the more transparent that I become, I feel like the more powerful the message is, or the more that it's received. And so I feel like that's kind of a role that I can share, that is that, helping people find, focused action just to get started, so that they're not like overwhelming themselves and not helping anybody by staying paralyzed and I have to be perfect or know everything in order to get out there and do the work that I really want to do.
Yeah, that's a big one. Many practitioners do get hung up on comparing their perhaps chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 20. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, they're not realizing that perhaps the person on chapter 20 is looking at somebody else's chapter 25. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? It's good for us to be able to use the accomplishments of others as a source of motivation instead of a source of comparison. Most people I found who are just even a few steps ahead, like yourself, many steps ahead in some cases, but you're always willing to pay it forward. You're always willing to reach out and grab somebody and pull them up to where you are and teach them what you've learned along the way, and perhaps prepare them for what they can expect to learn along the way, the hardships, but also the benefits that come along with the journey as well. So the thing is it's never perfect. It's never done. And you and I both know this, right? We're constantly evolving our message. We're constantly evolving, and sometimes it's just polishing. Sometimes it's breaking down and rebuilding it, but it's a constant evolution. And isn't nature like that? Like the leaves fall off the trees, Every year, every fall, the leaves fall off, and it's not the end of the world. It's just a natural cycle. And then they renew, right? And they grow all new leaves again. And so that's going to happen in our business. And it's not that the leaves weren't perfect and that's why they had to fall off. It's because there's seasonality to things. And I know before we started recording, we were discussing that as well. So I'd love to bring that into this conversation. What does that mean to you, seasonality, and and how are you applying that in your own personal journey?
Well, I mean, there are so many seasons to just my own personal health journey, and now coming into, the mentorship and starting my practice, and now being three or over just over 3 years, that everything has evolved so much that I have to evolve with it. Like I have to change the way that I think about things. And in the beginning, it was kind of out of necessity. I was in this hustle, and it's a struggle, on a health journey to get that kind of that burnout. You can easily get to that burnout stage. And, we were just discussing that, at this time of the year, I feel like it's the time where I'm supposed to ramp things up. Like I'm supposed to, I even said it, right? My limiting belief is I'm supposed to ramp things up. But now that I am becoming more intuitive in my own health, as I become a coach, the more people that I coach, the more coaches that I coach, is, practicing what I preach. And I'm just feeling there that this is the time that I don't need to ramp it up, even though this is what the market might say or what I'm supposed to do. I know that for me to be able to show up and be the best, for my clients, for the coaches that I now have the privilege to coach, thanks to you, that I have to start with myself and really adjust there first. And that's going to allow me to grow and learn the things that I need to for the next page of my journey. And it's different because I had never really been given the opportunity. Like there's always been pressures or obstacles that I had to push through. And now I can kind of, when I feel overwhelmed or tired, it's a different mindset I have to bring to the table. That slowing down might actually get me through it faster. And really being open to what do I need to learn from this? Pausing rather than, okay, quick reaction and get it done and do, like the entrepreneurial brain wants to do sometimes, but just saying, okay, pausing and to take a rest. And it's okay for me to take the next 2 weeks and spend time with my children in the holidays. And that's actually one of the reasons why I'm doing this, right? Like, so if I don't pause to take advantage of that, am I really doing exactly what I'm trying to coach? So, I'm fully transparent about that. And I find that the more vulnerable and transparent I am in my own journey, the more relatable that is and the more it lands for the person. That's, the lesson I've learned from you too. Your vulnerability is what drew me in. Just being real. People want that real experience, and that creates the trust that helps people move the needle.
It's so much energy for us to be somebody else. That's
Mm-hmm.
probably one of the most exhausting things that we can do as a human being is not be ourselves and put on a mask, right? In so many different ways, but in this case, like a mask of masking our true identity and trying to pretend like everything is perfect. I'm taken back always when I talk about this topic to Eminem in the movie 8 Mile. So I don't know if you remember this scene, but at the end of the movie, they're having a rap battle. And basically, Eminem goes first. And what he does is he says all the things about himself that the other rapper was going to say. And then when the other rapper goes, he has nothing to say because he took it all away. And it was because he was being vulnerable and highlighting those things. And then that allows people to lean in. And of course, he won the contest. So it's just a gentle reminder to me that be yourself. You can be in it's so much easier. It's less energetically intensive, and people really connect to that. And speaking of taking some time, and it's not even really taking time off. It's time off if we're misaligned. What you're doing is you're aligning with what the needs are for you, for your family, for your business, in the knowing that those people will still be there, right? Frankly, they've had their entire life to find a solution and they haven't. And so the odds of them finding it in the next 2 weeks are probably pretty low. And so when you're ready and they'll be ready, and off we go, off to the healing journey.
Mhm. So true. And, just being able to identify that, like I wouldn't have been able to identify that, 3 years ago, and even be able to hear that message that was strongly being said, that my approach now is different. Like, I don't know if I had a pause button before. It was always just go. Like somebody used to give me the nickname Go. Like that was my name. I'm just going to go. And realizing that that's part of the reason that I nearly had a heart attack or a stroke was the go, right? And so, it's just a privilege to be able to kind of go through my journey, not only my health journey, but this, passion, entrepreneurial practice journey with other people. And I think that's the most rewarding piece. Like doing it alone is hard. And we're not in this to do this alone. Like I think every single one of the practitioners is here because we know that we have something that we can get to help other people. You don't do that by yourself. Like it's like let's talk about these things. Let's feel these things together. It's not me telling you what to do. It's like join me. Like let's do this thing together. And what you're doing is working. Great. What I'm doing is working. That didn't work. Let's figure out what will. And it's the emotion and the like I said, the vulnerability and the courage that it takes to do all of that stuff together that is the connector. Like that's what we're seeking. That's the experience that makes the transformation, no matter what we're trying to transform.
Yeah, one of the things that helped me along my journey, I wasn't fortunate enough, at least early on, to have a community and to have a mentor. It probably took me about 3 or 4 years until I actually smartened up and hired someone to help me. And, it's not always easy finding the right community or finding the right mentor. And, when I think of the word mentor, I think of the entire group. So I know that, sometimes people are the face of things and maybe I'm the face of this mentorship, but I recognize wholeheartedly that it takes a village, it takes a community to support one another. So what are some of the things that you look for in joining a community that maybe would shed some light on the process of decision making? Because there are lots of choices that people have, and I know you had a lot of choices. So I'm curious as to what made you choose our community.
Well, and I'll be the first to say that I made some wrong choices, so I learned a lot from that. But this one is definitely the best one because I let my heart lead in choosing. And so having somewhere to go where you feel heard and you feel understood and you feel welcomed and supported, no matter whether you are doing things the same way or a different way. And so whether that's a business or, a health journey or whatever, you have to feel that what you are saying and bringing to the table lands and is heard and respected and responded to. And so that's the beauty of the mentorship, is that everyone in there is just so amazingly giving and loving and supportive and knowledgeable, and the coming together just elevates us all. And the more people that come, the more that energy just rises and it's contagious. And so that's what I want to create in, even in my own business. And I think that's one of the best parts of my business. If I had to be proud of anything, is that we have an amazing community. I call it the Reset Family, because we truly are. If somebody's sharing a struggle, it's like everybody comes out of the woodwork to say, you've got this, and supportive. And it's that you have to feel that you're not still going it alone, even though you hired somebody to help you to do this together with, right? So those are some big things. The heart-centered piece, I think, is the best way to put a label on it, I guess, if you're trying to define what you're looking for.
Okay, so it's working. That's what we like to try to lead with, is being heart-centered and really supporting people in loving themselves, loving their business that they're creating, loving the clients that they're working with, and all the opportunity that comes along with that. Were there any books that you read along the way that you felt really helped you in your journey?
So many. One of the ones that I talk about all the time is When the Body Says No. That's a huge one. And then a food one, that it was a book that just made me angry. It was called The Dorito Effect, where it talked about all of the flavorings and how they know the way that people get addicted to food with the brains and things like that. Because emotional eating and struggling with food addiction is something that I really try to work with a lot, and the mindset of things and help people understanding biochemistry. So those are just two off the top of my head. I mean, there's so many books, and there's a stack that I need to go start reading when I go take a couple weeks off, right, to dive into. I spend a lot of my time in actual collaborations like coaching like this. So I'm in a couple other mentorships for mindset and things like that. And just being like waiting in that constantly, and always challenging my mind to do something. That's where I spend a lot of my time, like listening. That way I can fold my clothes, for my kids and my family, or cook dinner, but still be listening to something that's, motivating me or challenging me to think differently. So I do a lot of mine in audibles and actual coaching with real life interacting people, even sometimes more than books.
Okay. Yeah. It always helps to hear other people's stories and their journeys. And I always find that when you have that right click or that right community, that they learn the lessons in their story so that they could share it and help you in some way and have that breakthrough moment. So yeah, finding the right group is so huge. And I love what you said there, that you may not find everything that you need in one group. So even myself, I belong to several masterminds. I have my core mastermind, but then there might be a few other programs or people that I hire to help me with specific challenges or specific areas that I'm looking to, further improve and optimize. You're obviously busy being a single mom, being a successful entrepreneur, having 2 children. I know you love to exercise. I know you love to cook. What's your secret to managing your time?
Well, I feel like my life is my business. So leveraging my time, and you've helped me a lot in noticing the ways that I can do that, is that a lot of times my marketing is just me inviting people into my life and living what I preach. And so even the cookbook that I just came out, we're working on number 2, like hopefully to be done this weekend. It's me just, creating beautiful things and taking some pictures. Like it's just part of the journey. So it's all meshed. So I think I'm really lucky in that regard, is that my life is my business. I don't have to go do something separate for my job. That the way that I live in my lifestyle, like if I need to take time off and go to the gym, or if I need to take, time and take an Epsom salt bath and go to bed earlier, like I'm actually working. And looking at it that way, I'm working, but I'm not working at the same time. So I think it's kind of looking at it like that, is that, like you said before, I'm not taking time off. I'm actually working really hard here at becoming a better version of myself and coaching the things that I'm doing, time management, like I'm getting better at blocking those things off, like scheduling down time. Like in the beginning, it was like just take everything that I got coming to me, and now I'm blocking off that white space, which I'm realizing more and more that I needed. And truly, like I said, being able to identify when I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, that I need to pause instead of go get things done, right? Instead of go. And so really, truly, yeah, blocking out that white space and taking vacations and breaks. That's tough to do as an entrepreneur when you feel like a perpetual to-do list and you feel behind, right? I hear people say that all the time. I feel behind, and you can't really be behind in your own journey. There's a lot of things to do. So, like I said, just being able to maybe realize that you need to slow down in order to kind of speed up.
Yeah, such great advice, and so much wisdom that you've acquired, and you're so open and willing to share. And I want to thank you and honor you for that. It's inspiring to see all that you've done in the 3 years. It'll be even more inspiring to see what happens in the next 3 years and beyond that. What's on the horizon for you? What are some of the big dreams you have that you'd like to accomplish in the next few years?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So I'm working on several different things. So I'm kind of taking my love for cooking and photography alongside the reset, where I feel like that's my educational platform as well, that marries all of those things, and starting a new website called Taste of the Reset. So creating not only recipes for myself, but possibly other practitioners to be able to use, so that we can leverage this time to be able to get better resources out to people that need them. supplements and things like that, just, allowing people to have access to really good supplements. So I'm looking at, private labeling some things and some customized things. Retreats and experiences, something I've always wanted to do. So in the next couple of years, I'd like to get that going, to create experiences for people. A retreat is something that changed my life. Just like we've had events, with the mentorship, creating those relationships and having those touch points with people. I really would like them to be in person, but even if they're virtual, just to have those places where people can, know that these things exist, know that these modalities exist, that these options exist, that this world exists, like step into the matrix, right? Like know that this is an option, for you to be able to have your own way to create your own health, and that there's a better and a different way to approach things.
And so it's happening. And I'm excited to see it as it all comes together. So thank you for your time today, Miranda. Thank you for shedding light and shining some perspective into your journey, and for your continued willingness to share and to support others, not just in your Reset with Miranda program, but also in our mentorship program. It means the world to me, and I'm so proud of everything that you've accomplished thus far. And I can only see big things happening, for you and for your community. So keep up the amazing work, and here's to an amazing year ahead, and continued growth and success.
Well, thank you so much. My heart is just like overflowing with gratitude for the opportunity and the experience and what I've learned from you. And I'm truly following your lead, and what you have created here, and what you've invited me in on your journey to be able to pay it forward to other people is just the opportunity of a lifetime. So I am truly grateful and blessed every day, and really, really grateful that I said yes, and hope others take that lead as well. Because I think we have a secret weapon here and an unfair advantage to be able to move light years ahead and help other people do the same. So thank you, my friend, and I'm just honored to be sharing this time with you.
Well, I received that fully. That's very well received. Where can people get a hold of you? Where can people learn more about you?
Yes, resetwithmiranda.com is the best way, and I have several groups and pages under the same name on both Facebook and then Instagram. Those are probably the places that I hang out the most, is Facebook, but resetwithmiranda.com, and you can link to all of those things through there.
Amazing. Thank you once again. Lots of love, lots of gratitude. Have an awesome day, and thank you for tuning in today. I hope you were inspired by Miranda's story. And I know we're gonna do this again a year from now, or maybe even sooner, just to report back and see how much you've accomplished in that period of time. Are you okay with that?
Oh, I'm okay with that. I'm just thinking, I'm going through that right now, thinking about what I did like in January of last year. My mind is like thinking about what's happened in a year is amazing. So in 3 years, oh my gosh, my mind is blown. I would have never pictured myself sitting here with what has happened. So, and that's the beautiful thing that I think we want to paint the picture for, is that you have to start in order to achieve some of these things. And so we're just getting started, and that's the most exciting piece of all of it.
All right. Amazing. Thank you so much. And once again, lots of love.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sachin.